Hello and welcome to Cryptids by State, Illinois. After many months of tossing the idea of this series being made back and forth in my mind, I finally decided it was time to make it a reality. This came with many of you frequently asking me to focus on cryptids located in a particular state. I was worried I would dry up the well of topics to talk about in the future if I made this series, but I think I found a good middle ground. This series is going to focus on quite a few cryptids found in one particular state, but possibly not all of them. Also, within this, I don't want to make these too in-depth, since I plan on allowing the option open for each cryptid to be talked about more fully in a possible future video. With that last statement, we will see how well that works out, since I find it very hard to be brief when talking about the paranormal. The final thing I want to point out is I am going to try very hard to upload one of these videos a month, so I don't take away from other uploads. For my viewers who are not located in the US, I wanted to assure you that I plan on making a sister series that looks at locations around the world as well. So with today's video, we are heading to Illinois, since it has been requested a lot, about every week, by Willie the Outlaw Artist, which I am assuming is now known as Willie's Western Studio. So without further ramblings from me, let's start this cryptid road trip. Illinois is a state that is home to many locations of historical significance, and in that vein, there are many interesting landmarks to be visited. The state got its name when in the 1600s, a French explorer named René Robert Cavelier Sieur de la Salle, wow, that's quite a long name, set out to map all the waterways found in the area. During this excursion, René came across 10 to 12 Native American tribes that lived along the waters that we now know as the Illinois River. A word that these people frequently used was Illinois or Illinois, which meant best people. Due to the French mispronouncing this, it was called Illinois, which was a term used to describe the native tribes of the land. I know this has nothing to do with cryptids, but I find it very interesting how places get their names. And yet again, this proves how hard it is for me to be brief when looking into topics. Anyway, outside of all this, Illinois is an area that is also home to quite a few sites that we have a particular interest in, which includes haunted houses, multiple UFO sightings, and of course, quite a lot of different types of cryptids. Before we get into this topic much farther, I must ask for your help. During my research, I kept coming across reports of a creature known as a lindworm, which is basically a dragon, and another called agua, which is a massive turtle that is sometimes described as having two heads. However, when trying to find references beyond that, I came up empty-handed. If any of you are aware of these two creatures, being said to live in Illinois, please let me know. I have seen the agua being mentioned in other states, and obviously lindworms are nothing new, but I couldn't tie them to the state we were talking about. Anyway, back to our regularly scheduled program. Interestingly, a cryptid that has a soft spot in my heart has been showing up recently in Illinois, which would be the Mothman. Now, I'm not going to go into too many details about this since I recently discussed it in my Mothman Legacy video, but suffice it to say that this cryptid has been sighted so frequently as of late that it is theorized that it is now making its home in Illinois rather than West Virginia. However, that is assuming that there is only one of them, which I don't agree with. Also, Illinois is home to the famous Enfield Horror, which occurred in 1973. This strange, three-legged, pink-eyed, short-armed cryptid terrorized the town of Enfield for a time, before apparently vanishing from existence. I made a cryptid spotlight about this creature a while ago, so I won't go into this story here. I am unsure what it is with the cryptids of the area, but while there are quite a few references to names, there isn't much in the way of stories. One such case is the Wolfman of Chestnut Mountain, where a dogman-like creature was said to roam the area of Galena. According to what I could find, this creature was spotted a few times, it stood around 5 to 6 feet, had human-like hands, and oddly enough, glowing white eyes. Most sightings of this kind note red or yellow, so this is a rarity. There are 3 known sightings, with 2 of them involving passengers in a vehicle seeing a wolf-like being walking on its hind limbs, and then leaping great distances off the road as the car passes by. The other sighting is referencing an encounter where a psychologist apparently was attacked by the creature, but I could not find anything about this story, and I really want to know what happened. Within this state's cryptid topic, there are quite a few creatures that can only be classified as Sasquatch-like. So let's talk about them first. The next cryptid we have is called the Farmer City Monster. This one was actually quite tough to pin down, since not a lot of people talk about it, and for the fact that it has two names, with the other being known as the Salt Creek Monster. This discrepancy comes from where a lot of sightings took place, and many people trying to figure out if they were in fact the same creature. From all accounts, this creature is ape-like, has grayish-white fur, an absolutely terrible smell, and its most notable feature is its glowing yellow eyes. It all started in the early months of 1970, when farm animals were found dead in Farmer City. Not much thought was given to this, but later a couple parked at Lover's Lane were shocked to see they weren't as alone as they wished to be. There outside the car stood a tall, white, hairy creature with yellow eyes peering into the windows. The couple shined a flashlight on it and it quickly ran away into the forest. This started a rash of sightings that appeared to be the same creature, but every time someone got near it or noticed it was being watched, it ran away. Even a Farmer City police officer named Robert Hayslip decided to get to the bottom of all the numerous sightings, and during one such trek, he stated he heard something moving through the grass, and he did see a flash of yellow eyes. Later that same night, a campground would be completely destroyed, including the metal grommet eye holes being ripped out of a tent. For those of you who are thinking like I was when reading this story, it is said that it wasn't a bear. Apparently, Officer Hayslip and a conservation officer reported a call of people seeing the creature bathing in a stream. Of course, when they got near it, it ran away immediately. However, they did get close enough to catch a whiff of the creature's terrible smell. After inspecting the area, they found footprints that they described as not being a bear, but were human-like and massive. This creature was seen multiple times after this. However, it all ended when a few days later, a group of construction workers were on their way to their job site in a van, when the same creature was seen running across the road. This was the last known sighting of the Farmer City Monster. However, here is where things get interesting. A few months later in the same year, a creature matching this description started showing up in the area of Salt Creek. On July 9th, 4 campers heard a rustling sound behind one of the tents. So they turned their nearby car headlights on, which revealed a man-like creature knelt down by one of the tents with grayish-white fur. Realizing it was seen, it stood up on 2 legs and is described as running away very fast. It was said to stand around 6 to 7 feet tall, but later reports would question this. The entire campground cleared out as word of the creature spread. It was at this point that Officer Hayslip was called and he investigated the area, but turned up empty-handed. I must note that it feels like Officer Hayslip and the monster shared a connection much like Sheriff Brody and Jaws, or Ahab and Moby Dick. If there was a sighting, he showed up, especially figuring it was in what I would assume a different jurisdiction. I'm not putting down Robert, since if I was in his shoes I would do the same exact thing. I just find a little humor in it. More and more sightings sprung up until they all ceased after 10 people spotted it near a dead tree, and again it ran away. While most people remarked on the normal characteristics, one man went on record as saying he didn't think it was as tall as everyone said, and he claimed it was only 3 feet high. Now there is a really interesting pattern here, since I was just about to switch topics to the Murphysboro Mud Monster, but oddly enough, it seems to be the same creature, only sighted in a different location, and 3 years later. It was described as having whitish gray fur, standing around 7 feet tall, and had a very strong odor about it. Sounds pretty similar, doesn't it? One main difference is that this creature is normally seen caked in mud, but also has developed the ability to scream. Apparently, one of the first sightings came from a couple who, by all implications of the story, weren't supposed to be parked in the car together, if you catch my drift, but they heard a scream, and when they turned on the car headlights, they saw a muddy, white-furred creature walking towards them. The officer on duty, no, not Hayslip, but Ron Manwaring, noted how due to the couple's activities coming forward would have exposed them, which seemed odd to do for just a hoax. Sightings continued until the creature was seen near the edge of a farm. Police dogs were brought in and followed the trail to a barn, which they refused to enter. Apparently the police didn't feel comfortable entering either, since they stated it was probably just a bear, even though large footprints were found and strange slime was found in the trees where it was first seen. I won't go into it much, but there is yet another creature who is similar to both of the previous, and it is known as the Coal Hollow Road Monster, or Cahomo. This creature looks exactly like the other two, but this one shrieks, and it was seen in 1972. According to this story, this creature was sighted over 200 times. The first sighting of it was later admitted to be a hoax, but that doesn't excuse all the other sightings of similar creatures, not to mention the report that came in from Kankakee County in the year 2000 claiming to see this beast. It certainly seems like this white-haired being was, and possibly still is, making its rounds in Illinois. A recent report about a strange cryptid near Peoria is our next topic, and oddly enough, it is eerily familiar to me. On October 25th of 2017, 3 people were walking down a forest trail at around 10 at night. The group frequently did this activity, so it wasn't an oddity. However, during this trip, one of them noticed something strange just standing off the side of the road. A flashlight was put on the spot, and to the group's horror, they saw a silver-colored being just standing there, appearing to stare at them. They decided to turn around and head back home, of which the creature didn't seem to follow. They said in a report that they heard an odd squeaking noise before seeing it and after they made it out of the woods. At first they assumed it was a baby owl, but it could have very well come from the creature. They said the creature was about 5 feet tall, had a strangely shaped head, long muscular arms, and large black eyes. No features such as a nose or mouth were seen, but it was stated that there could have been a mouth or nose, but they didn't look at it too long. Most agreed it was hairless. The image that I have been showing you is what the group described. Now what strikes me about this sighting is that this is the first time that I've seen someone describe something even close to what I personally saw. In fact, I questioned this story since it almost followed the exact same story as my encounter. I was walking down a forest trail at night with 3 friends and I had a flashlight. Suddenly I noticed something on the side of the path near a tree. I put my flashlight on it and it was about 5 feet tall, was grayish white, no hair, muscular arms, and black eyes. I didn't notice any features such as a mouth, but mine did appear to have a long skinny nose. We turned to get back to the car and my light died. When I got it back on, the creature had moved up. Once we made it to the clearing where my car was, we heard a strange screeching noise coming from where it was, and in the adjacent forest as well. This encounter started my search into cryptids, when my dad said maybe it was the chupacabra, and at the time I had never heard of such a thing. Years later, I know what I saw wasn't a chupacabra, but I decided it must have been a gray. Until this very moment of finding this story. Now, as stated at the beginning, I didn't go over all the cryptids found in Illinois, but the list does also include a lake monster and thunderbird sightings that date back quite a few years, and even up until the present. I don't know if they would be classified together, but there are also pterodactyl sightings as well. As you can see, this state has quite a lot of cryptids that call it home, and the last one I talked about has me a bit shook. So I must ask you if you think that all the ape-like creatures are the same beast. Also, I am curious as to which state you would like me to look into next. Well, actually I am planning on covering New Jersey next, so I guess I'm asking for the topic after that one. As usual, here's the moment where we look at 3 comments that I really enjoyed from last week's video. Chef Mookie says, "Work is coming to a 16-minute and 33-second halt. Sorry, folks." Thank you so much, Chef Mookie, and I hope this didn't get you in any trouble. As always, I greatly appreciate your support. No censorship stated. New sub. Great job. Thanks for not having irritating music. Thank you, and I must say that I like your username. Welcome to the Cryptid family, and I hope you enjoy your time here. As for the music, I try hard to keep it balanced with the mood of the topic, as well as acting more as a background noise rather than attempting to draw attention to it. Hence why I normally keep the levels so low. Fortunately, my topics are always in the creepy realm, so not a lot of the techno music fits with it. And last but not least, we have Cynthia Erickson, who says, "Mr. Miller, you find other stories that many have not heard of. Thank you. Great job." Thank you so much, Cynthia. I really enjoyed your creativity with that acronym you posted. I try really hard to bring topics to my channel that a lot of people are unaware of, rather than rehashing all the topics that most channels do. In a small way, I'm trying to keep those stories alive before they fade away. I do want to note that while I greatly appreciate polite salutations, I'm fine with you simply calling me Ben. If you haven't yet done so, do please consider subscribing to my channel for content similar to this. And also, if you enjoyed this, could you share my videos with someone you know who may enjoy this type of genre? With that, be safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.